there is a weight of history on the shoulders of Aragorn, and there is a lot of pressure on this character to do the right thing, if you wish. And he needs to find out what that right thing really is. And this is part of the interest in this character, I think, that it's not that he knows exactly from the beginning what it is that he should do at every single moment, but he is exploring his possibilities, and he is learning also, I think, from other characters in the story what the proper approach would be to deliver Middle-earth from the menace of Sauron, right? I think when we talk about his particular history, it needs to be said that he belongs to an ancient lineage, which goes back all the way, in fact, to the first age of the world. He is related, of course, to Elros through the Númenórean lineage, and Elros was the brother of Elrond. So he is, he belongs to the same family, although distant relative of Elrond through this lineage. He is thus also related, far back in time to Luthien, and to, there is even the strain of the gods in his own lineage through Melian, the mother of Luthien, right? So he partakes in the history of semi-divine beings, elves and men, so to speak. So in that sense, he embodies many different strands of Tolkien's project, which to a great extent deals with how to integrate ideas of mortality and immortality, and different approaches and different attitudes to how to live a fruitful life in this world, depending on different circumstances, such as mortality or immortality. And I think Aragorn is probably, for me, it's the most interesting character from the point of view of this mixture of different literary traditions that are present in Middle-earth. And as a character, he embodies, to some extent, many different traditions, right? So there are parallels, but they are never perfect. And this happens in Tolkien's work all the time, right? There are so many ingredients, let's say, in the soup, as Tolkien would say himself in his on Fairy Story, in his essay. So that it's very difficult just to pinpoint this was the inspiration for this episode or for this character. And Aragorn, being like a universal compound, he partakes in a number of traditions from the real world, literary traditions, but I think not so much related to specific example as to the overall genre, different approaches to how, the types of heroes that appear in different literary traditions, so to speak. And Aragorn is really flexible. He is able to sit down and talk to hobbits, but he can also rise up and proclaim great discourses in the company of kings in a grand style, so to speak. So he moves from one tradition to the other, and it depends a little bit on the context, on the other characters that surround him, and on the kind of episodes that he is confronted with. Right? He is with the hobbits. He is more novelistic than epic, for example. When he interacts with the elves, he is more related to the tradition of medieval romance. And when he is in Rohan or in Gondor, the epic tradition or the chanson de geste tradition, the medieval heroic tradition, they are more prominent, right? And of course, in this, he is different from other literary heroes of the same time in the 20th century, because when he interacts with hobbits on one level and with kings on the other, there is never this ironic contrast that's so present in contemporary literature, such as modernist literature by James Joyce. Tolkien is able to create a texture, a literary texture in which there's no need for confrontation between these traditions. They merge, and Aragorn sort of embodies that combination of different traditions, I think, in a very suggestive way. If we look at the appendices to The Lord of the Rings, we have the tale of Aragorn and Arwen, for example, and that is an alternative ending, really, to The Lord of the Rings. It's a different kind of ending. It's a lot less, let's say, cheery than Sam's final words, well, I'm back. No. Here we have a different ending. We have an ending in which Arwen, having relinquished her immortality, is faced with the prospect of dying, and being alone. And that says something about Tolkien's vision of the world as well, that there is never anything as pure beauty. It's always tainted by our mortality. But still, as mortals, we have the possibility of grasping the beyond world, where there is something inside of us, even as mortal beings, that enable us to get in touch with this more profound dimension of reality. I would say that Aragorn and Arwen and Beren and Luthien, they collectively represent the paradox of the human condition here on Earth. I mean, we are mortals, but we have immortal souls. We have ties to God, but we have to leave the circles of this world inevitably. Let's say that Tolkien's tale itself is set in a pre-Christian world, but it contains, let's say, the seeds of some future fulfillment, and it brings a sense of hope. I think that in the final conversation between Aragorn and Arwen, Aragorn is telling Arwen that there is more than just memory beyond the circles of this world. But still, it's, she won't really believe it. And that creates the sense of poignancy that I think informs all of Tolkien's work and makes it different from a lot of fantasy literature that was being written in the same period. So yeah, differences, similarities, but above all, this twin destiny between men and elves, mortality and mortality, this constant dialogue, which is so much present in Tolkien's work. And the white tree is it's a powerful symbol of a renewed alliance with the gods that has been, the white tree, when the story begins, when the Lord of the Rings begins, is withered. It's died. It's dried up. Look at Denethor and how he is managing the kingdom of Gondor at this stage. He has given in. He has been using the Palantir. He's given in to corrupted forces. He's even, committing suicide. So he is repeating the kind of fall that affected the Númenóreans and Alfarazón, etc. A long time ago. And the white tree needs to flourish in order to make the kingdom work, and in order to make the marriage work as well. The white tree is intimately connected. And the white tree, of course, is related to the two trees of Valinor. The two trees of Valinor, they contained the blended light of Ilúvatar, the Godhead. And when it was killed by Morgoth and Gulliante, the only remaining light from the two trees were captured in the Silmarils, right? And then we have the idea that Eärendil, back in the first age, he takes the remaining Silmaril up into the sky and fixes it in the sky, and it becomes a symbol of hope, right? And this star and the light of that star is symbolic of Ilúvatar, and the tree on Earth is the corresponding symbol, the white tree of this light. And so he needs to find the tree, a new tree, to make it flourish, and he can only do so really if he is renewing the bond with Ilúvatar. And the bond is the blended light, and the blended light to some extent represents both art and science, mortality and immortality. That is, in other words, it kind of represents a union between elves and men. In the first age, it was between Beren and Luthien, for example, and now there is a parallel story. So this is how the three things are entwined: the kingdom of Gondor, the marriage, the king and the queen, and the new white tree.
But the even more important thing came very clearly to me tonight is that when we talk about Tolkien, we talk about very, very deep things which all care about. So we are using the language, which is the language of Tolkien. Tonight we have been talking about Aragorn. But actually we are not just talking about Aragorn. We have been talking about different things, something deeper, a sort of inner layer of reality. So I feel even closer to Martin tonight, and all the people have asked the question, okay, because it's like if there is something very deep that we've been connecting us tonight, which we have expressed in figurative language by sharing Tolkien. That's the other beautiful thing of Tolkien. That's something that we want to do together.